Getting everything up and going so we can go live. Welcome, welcome. And hopefully now I have learned how to let everyone see my screen and to be able to see what everyone is saying. So, yeah. Welcome. I'm glad you're here and I look forward to hanging out with you. So, yeah. Let me get my comments going. All right. Well, welcome. Today, we're going to talk about the 4 seasons of grief and helping you find just one next step of what you can do to step forward. So, this is for you. This is helpful if you feel stuck in grief, if you feel lost, all of the things. This will be for you. All right. As you're joining, let me know in the chat where you're connecting from. I always love to know where people are connecting from. And if I look a little like this, it's because I'm streaming from multiple places. And so I'm trying to see all the comments and what people are saying. So I'm mostly going to pay attention to my Zoom room that I have going on. So, hi, Diane. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Let me get this started here and we'll get people filtered in. Make sure everybody can see my screen okay. If you cannot hear me or cannot see my screen, please let me know. And I want to make sure we get that fixed so that everyone can see all of the things. Get my chat box popped out here. Everyone. Okay, and hopefully I can. Hi, Margie. Welcome. We are going to be getting started in like 2 minutes. If you are interested in learning about the 4 seasons of grief, I actually created a free quiz. You could go to bravewidow.com/quiz. It'll take just a few minutes. You can take the quiz and see what season of grief that you are currently in and what I suggest for people in just one next step. Like if I could just give you one thing to focus on that would help you with where you are, what that next step would be. Hi, Lori, Brenda, Wendy, Rick. Welcome, everyone. So I'm currently streaming on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and on Zoom. So if you cannot see the comments, I will read some of those. And I would love to know in the chat where you guys are from, where you're connecting in from. Hi, Dee. Welcome. And we're going to get started in just one more minute. We're going to be talking about the 4 seasons of grief. So, hi, Craig. Welcome, welcome. So glad that you guys have joined and are going to be hanging out with me for a little bit. I'm going to share some of my story. And I am so excited on TikTok. I figured out how to share my screen. So, I used to do a lot of lives here, and it was always challenging because I could not figure out how to show you my screen, but now I know how. So this is a journey of continual learning. So hi, Linda. Welcome, Shannon, Ruth, Loretta, Rose. So glad that you guys are here. We're going to get started right now. Actually, we are at the top of the hour. So before I get started, I am going to say a prayer. I am a person of faith. I am a faith-based grief and life coach. And so I like to start my sessions when I can with a prayer. So I invite you to join me, to center yourself, and we'll say a quick prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for our time together, and thank you for the blessings that you've given to each of us. And I just pray for each person who's here or who may watch the replay that you would fill their heart with comfort and peace and just the knowledge that you are present and are with them. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. So, what are we going to talk about today? Today, we're going to talk about the 4 seasons of grief. Now, let me know in the chat if you have heard about the 5 stages of grief. Okay. If you've heard about that, put yes or put an emoji in the chat. Like, this is how I know if you guys are with me. Everyone's here. I haven't lost anyone. You haven't fell asleep. Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Judy. Hi, Mary. If you've heard of the 5 stages of grief, this is not what this is. So, after years of studying grief, of coaching other widows and widowers, I developed something called the 4 seasons of grief that I'm going to walk you through right now. And so, I'm going to walk you through what those 4 seasons are. I want to share a little bit about my story first, so you know who is this person talking to you. Are you a widow? Spoiler alert, the answer is yes. Sometimes I do get that question. And what I have found has been really helpful for people as they're moving through grief. And then at the end, if you guys are open to it, I would love to share with you about Brave Widow Academy. Hi, Joe. Hi, Margaret. Hi, Sue. Kathy. Crash, welcome. I would love to share with you about the academy, but I want to make sure that you're open to me sharing about that and some of the bonuses that I have going on. So if that's okay with you, put that in the chat. If it's not okay, I'm not going to talk about it. I won't share it. It's fine. We don't have to go there. But that'll be at the very end, okay? So, all right, let me dive into Margaret's like, "Yes." Okay. Thank you, Margaret. Um so if you can, hopefully now everybody can see my screen here. But today I'm happy to share with you. I do love my life. I do love and enjoy waking up every day. But if you would have asked me 4.5, almost 5 years ago now, I never would have imagined that I would be able to sit here on this live event and be talking to you. Because in July of 2021, I watched as my husband of nearly 20 years was taken by an ambulance from our home, never to return back. We were married 3 weeks shy of 20 years. We have 4 amazing teenagers, as you can see here in our family photo at the time. We both had been sick with COVID that morphed to double pneumonia, and ultimately he would end up in ICU for 11 days. And there were lots of ups and downs. There were steps forwards, there were steps backwards. And I remember being called to the hospital one of those days to meet with the physician to talk about the next steps on our road to recovery. But there would be none. In fact, there would be no smile, there would be no warmth, there would be not even kindness. I would just sit in this room across from the physician who looked at me and said, "We think your husband is brain dead." Tests later, hours later, ultimately they would determine that he was brain dead. And I remember in that moment, like my whole world just stopped. And I try to wrap my mind around, how did we get here? Like things were going better, things were progressing, and how do we end up here? And how do I go home and tell my kids that their dad had died? Like I couldn't wrap my mind around it. So 3 weeks later, after he died, we had planned to have family and friends over to our home for a big cookout and celebration for our 20th wedding anniversary. And as you can see in this picture, I had ordered the t-shirt. 20 years, married to my best friend. We were planning this celebration. And instead of facing this day excited as a wife of 20 years, we still had family and friends over, but it was to honor Nathan's life and his memory. Instead of facing that day excited as a wife, I faced that day crushed as a widow and now a solo mom. About a year and a half had this memorial garden that you see here made on the side of our house. And I bought on Marketplace, a park bench that I had really wanted this garden to be a beautiful place that I could honor Nathan's memory, that it would like remind me of the love that we had together. Like it would just be this comforting, beautiful place. And instead of being comforted by it, I found that I was actually tormented by it because every day it would just remind me that he wasn't here. What's the point? He's not here. And so I remember very clearly one day I was sitting out on this park bench. It was in the afternoon. I was playing some of his favorite songs and I was crying so hard. It's like crying from the pit of your stomach where your chest is squeezed tight. I was doubled over. I remember my chest hurt so bad. And I remember having this thought of like, this is it. This is the moment. My heart's going to give out. I'm going to roll over on this bench and I'll be gone. And obviously it didn't happen. I'm sitting here telling you my story. But after the tears stopped, I remember sitting back up and just thinking like this is how it happens. Like this is how spouses die of a broken heart. Like how do people survive this? How am I going to survive another 40 or 50 years of this? I can't. And as I sat there, I started thinking about our kids, all of our kids that we had together. And I started thinking about how unfair it was for them and how they'd all, but effectively they had lost two parents because I felt like I had died on the day that he did. And I remember thinking like how sad that was for me. It's like, wow, both of us are basically no longer here and they're just having to float through life and figure it out. And I remember deciding that I was going to have to do something different because I couldn't keep going on the way I was going. Time wasn't helping me. This had been a year and a half now. I felt like time wasn't making anything better. And I decided for my kids that I would figure out some way, somehow to get on the other side of grief. And so I remember sitting here on this bench, I closed my eyes and I said these words out loud. I said, Nathan, I love you and I miss you and I cannot live like this anymore. I have got to move forward. And I stood up and I walked inside. And that was really the beginning of this relentless journey of understanding and learning not only how to navigate grief and to get on the other side of grief, but how do I now rebuild an entire life for myself? How do I find who I'm going to be now in this next chapter? So, around that same time, I ended up launching a podcast where I interviewed and shared the stories of hundreds of other widows. I've spoken since then to thousands of other widows, but I have a podcast and YouTube channel called The Brave Widow Show, where you can watch and listen to those stories. I went on this massive journey of healing and exploring and doing things that I never thought I would do. I've become a real estate investor. I've traveled to 5 new countries. I went to a Dave Ramsey conference and thanked him in person for all the ways that he had helped us financially by implementing his program. I became a public speaker. I went and became a certified life coach. I became certified through Grief Recovery Institute to use their evidence-based program. All of these wonderful things that came out of something that was really tragic. And I'm happy to share that now I do love my life again. And I even eventually met and married the most wonderful, amazing, supportive man, Robert, and gained a bonus son in this whole process. So, my approach to serving widows and widowers and what I've done these last 3 years is my methods are faith based, but I was instructed by a 20-year practicing clinical psychologist through the faith based Coaching Academy, where we combine psychology, counseling, coaching, and spirituality, all those principles together. And so I founded Brave Widow October of 2022. We have impacted more than 20 countries, thousands of widows and widowers, and happy to share that we are seeing lives changed, which is amazing. So, I want to walk you through the 4 seasons of grief. And the reason I created the 4 seasons of grief is because I was so frustrated that no one could tell me, what do I need to do? I'd gone to counseling, I'd talked to some grief groups, I talked with hundreds of other widows at this point, and I just felt like nothing was moving me forward, like I was still stuck. Do you guys resonate with that? Have any of you felt stuck or lonely or confused or lost about what your one next step is? Put it in the chat and let me know. Put stuck or lost or confused, or like people just keep telling me to give it time and time isn't making it better. So the 4 seasons of grief is derived after coaching lots of other widows and mapping out a roadmap of what you can expect as you move through the seasons of grief. Joe says, yes, I still feel stuck even months later. Yeah. Joe, that makes you a normal human being, by the way. And we're going to help you get unstuck today. Okay. So the first season of grief is rawness. It's called, and we're building out this acronym called RISE. Okay. So the first letter in RISE is R. This is rawness. This is typically your first few days, weeks, months in grief, where you are reeling from your loss. You are in survival mode. Let me know in the chat if any of these things resonate with you, okay? You might feel like your nerves are on fire, like you are hyper vigilant and there's a lot of fear and anxiety, and it's really hard to make decisions and it's really hard to think clearly. And you just feel like you're keeping your head above water, like you are truly just surviving on a day to day basis. So when widows are in this first season of rawness, there are a lot of mistakes that we tend to make. Okay. There are a lot of misconceptions about grief that we think is the right answer. And in all actuality, as taught by Grief Recovery Institute, these are not helpful in grief. So some of the misconceptions we have are we think we need to do more, we need to be strong, we just need to power through. We just need to distract ourselves and stay busy. We just need to cry alone because nobody else understands, and we need to be strong for ourselves or be strong for our kids. Like people would tell me that all the time, like you have got to be strong for your kids. And I'm like, duh, I know that. It isn't helping me. It isn't helping me to say that. I just wanted someone to tell me I didn't have to be strong for like 5 minutes. Okay. So, what I see a lot of people lean into are these misconceptions. And so, inside of Brave Widow, what I help my clients do, you're going to see over on the right the things that we focus on as part of Brave Widow. What I would suggest people focus on are things like healing emotionally. So sometimes we just stay busy to distract ourselves and we don't give ourselves time to heal and process. We need to lower our expectations. We need to ask for help or accept help that's being offered. We need to create physical and emotional safety. And we also want to build a routine. So, in Grief Recovery Method, this is the only program I use outside of Brave Widow. It is evidence based. It's a 40-year-old program. It works. Okay. So in there, we learn the tools to navigate grief and to process loss. And then we also focus on getting out of survival mode in what I call the chaos to calm blueprint in Brave Widow. Okay. So these are all the things that we focus on in this season. Now, I only have you for an hour. I don't have you here with me for 6 months or a year so that I can teach you everything I know about what we focus on. But even if you just took this list and you implemented it, you started doing these things, this will help you get unstuck if you're in this first season, okay? Now, as widows, we are overwhelm is a real struggle. Has anybody ever felt overwhelmed? Joe says, "Yes, I remember those days of grief. It was horrible." Yeah, it's horrible. Okay. So when we're widows, when we're in grief, we can often feel overwhelmed. So I want to share with you, get back to my screen. I want to share with you just if I could just tell you one thing to do that would help you, just one thing, it would be to slow down, to step forward. Okay, we're actually going to do the opposite of what we think we need to do. When we're early days of grief, we think we need to do more. We need to go faster. We need to do more. We need to do this. We need to do that. We need to be strong. We need to push, 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 push. And really, in this first season of grief, where we need to slow down, we need to do less. We need to sink into rest and healing and the bare bones of what needs to be done to just survive. What we're trying to do here is to create intentional safety so that your nervous system can start to calm down, so that you can start to think clearly again, so that you can start to function the way that you used to function. Your brain post trauma, post loss, your brain literally does not function the way that it did before trauma, before loss. Okay. We can get it to function the way that it used to, right? We're not going to get into neuroscience here, but this is what we learn in Brave Widow is there is a way to allow your brain and to allow your nervous system to function a similar way that it did before. But when you've gone through something traumatic, your brain and your nervous system are all focused on survival. Just like, what do I have to do to survive? What do I have to do to be safe? That's why a lot of times decisions feel really scary because our brains are looking for all the ways that that might be the wrong decision. We might make a wrong decision and that might just mess up our whole life. Like that's how it feels in the beginning. Do you guys remember feeling like that? Or have you ever felt like that? Margaret says yes. Okay, so first season, again, if you do nothing else in the first season, we want to slow down so that we can eventually step forward. Okay, so season number 1 is rawness. Season number 2 is called isolation. And this season of grief, how I think about it is we're no longer in survival mode. We're no longer just trying to make it through the day. We are now more in maintenance mode. So we have our feet underneath us, we have our routine, and we're living life day to day, and we don't like it. We're like, I remember asking, like, is this it? Is this my life? Like this? That another 40 years of this? Like, this is my life now? This is awful. And I call this season isolation because typically what widows will notice, like the statistic, is that widows will lose 75% of their social circle in the first year. And so in the beginning, we get lots of messages, people check on us, they bring the casseroles, like all of those things are happening. But at some point, we start to hear crickets, right? Like people stop checking in, or they don't show up for us, or they don't really understand because they haven't experienced it. And so we're left feeling unseen, unheard, uncared for, abandoned. Not all widows, but a significant percent of widows and widowers that I work with and that I talk to experience this big shift in their social circle. Okay. So, some of the mistakes that we make in isolation are waiting to feel ready. Maybe we join groups that don't really fit our values or what we're trying to do. We ghost invites. We just kind of float through life and we end up living with a lot of fear. And so what I encourage widows to do and what I help them do in this season, you'll see over here on the right, number 3 is we work a lot on rebuilding your confidence. So I have something called the self-trust system that we walk through. It's a methodology that we use to help rebuild confidence in making decisions, in trying new things, in making connections with people and relationships, because it's important to start rebuilding our life, rebuilding our social circle, rebuilding those connections that we had with other people, whether we're like reinvigorating old relationships or we're forming new ones. But rebuilding that confidence is really key in being able to go meet people and make friends. Like, that's a scary thing when you're past a certain age. It's like, how do I do this? Where do I go? What do I say? I'm not good at small talk. I don't like going anywhere. Like, all of those things. So, if you are in this season of grief, if there was only one thing that you were going to do, that I was going to give you one next step, just one thing, it would be to connect with a friend. And I know you might be thinking, I shouldn't have to do that. They should be connecting with me. They should be reaching out to me. I'm the one that went through something terrible. I shouldn't have to reach out to them. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong for thinking that, or that what you're saying isn't fair, isn't true. But also what I know to be true is that relationships take energy, effort, and intention. And so we can sit at home alone and ruminate on how unfair it is and how lonely we are and how people abandon us, and that isn't right and that isn't what should happen. Or we can go through the effort of reaching out to a friend or making a new friend and intentionally building up that relationship so that we aren't isolated and we aren't lonely. So these are some of the things that I help widows and widowers to do. So I want to share with you very quickly a story about one of my clients named Karen. So when I first met Karen, it's been just over a year now. She had been widowed for almost 4 years. It was completely overwhelmed with parenting adult children. She struggled with boundaries at home and at work. She had felt unseen and unheard. She was struggling so much that her employer required her to go to counseling, required her to try grief groups, and none of those resonated with her. You know, for some people, those are helpful. For some people, they're not, or sometimes it just takes a while to find the right groups. But for her, it just didn't resonate. In fact, her counselor told her, Karen, it's been almost 4 years. So the next time we meet, I will expect that you have moved on, that you are starting to take steps forward. Shortly after Karen and I started working together, and her story's on my podcast. You can actually go watch her story on my website. You can find her on the podcast. She's very open about her story, so I'm not betraying any confidence, okay? She's been very open about it, and I am deeply grateful for that. So, shortly after we started working together, her employer actually sat her down with HR and they put her on a performance improvement plan. Now, does anybody know what a performance improvement plan is? If you do, put it in the chat. Okay. If you don't know what that is, when you sit down with your leader and you sit down with HR and they put you on this documented performance improvement plan, in layman's terms, it's basically a wake up call, which is like either you're going to turn around your behavior and your performance, or you're no longer going to have a job here. And we're going to document on you every 30 days to make sure that you're making progress, or we're going to document that you're not making progress, which gives us grounds to move you out to another job. Okay. That's what it is. So all this is happening as she and I are starting to work together. Within 90 days, she meets back with HR and her employer. And not only did they take her off the performance improvement plan, not only did she start to feel more free and she start to show up in her life and her work differently, not only did she notice that, but everyone around her started to notice. So her employer asked her, like, what are you doing that's different? They were going to mandate her to go through emotional intelligence courses. And they said, we've changed our mind. You don't need to do that anymore. What is it you're doing? Like, you are showing up as a totally different person. What is it? And she told him about Brave Widow. And she told him about the things that we had done. We went through grief recovery method. We were doing one-on-one coaching. She was being part of the group calls and implementing what she had learned. And so not only did her employer say, okay, we're going to take you off this performance improvement plan, but we're also going to pay for you. We're going to sponsor you to continue in Brave Widow because it has changed you and changed how you show up here at work, which is like amazing, right? So Karen, if you don't know, I guess I didn't have her singled out in the picture. She's the one on the left. This is her daughter that's getting married. But so Karen was able, even in just the first 3 to 4 months of us working together, she began to, for the first time, truly process and face her grief. She rebuilt her confidence. She learned how to start regulating her own emotions. She learned how to start implementing boundaries and how to show up as a different person on a daily basis, which was absolutely amazing. Now, does that mean her grief is perfect in 3 months? No, of course not. But she no longer felt isolated. She no longer felt unseen and that nobody understood and that she had no tools to use to actually cope and navigate the rest of her life with grief. Now she had the tools. Now she has the knowledge. Now she has the ability. She's actually doing it. Joe says, I tried that, but my BFF would always complain about her husband and kids. And finally, I blew up and said, I wish I could complain about my husband one more time. So we hardly talk anymore. Oh, I'm sorry, Joe. That's really tough. I think sometimes people just don't realize what they say is a little tone deaf and what they say is really harsh. I remember one time I went to a widow, like a women's tea thing at church. Lives like a tea party event for women, which isn't really my vibe, but I was trying to connect with other women. And there were 2 elderly women that were sitting next to me, and one was just complaining on and on and on and on about her husband and talking about how, if something ever happened to him, she would never get remarried because, this whole marriage thing was just too much work and she had to make too many sacrifices and he was just so annoying. And I kept my mouth shut, but it was like lightning running down my spine the whole time. And I finally turned to her and I remember saying, look, I know there are things about your spouse that just really annoy you, but what you probably don't expect, and what I'll tell you from personal experience, is that those things that annoy you now are actually going to be some of the things that you miss when they're no longer here. So, from someone who has had the experience of being a widow, I just really encourage you to lean into the things you do love about your spouse and to focus on those and not focus on all the things that drive you crazy. She didn't really have much to say after that, but Joe, I just want to share that because I like feel that in my soul and I chose not to keep my mouth shut either. Because I think people don't know. Like they're just I will say ignorant, that doesn't sound very nice, but I think people just don't know. All right. So Karen just said, being part of Brave Widow has been an answer to a 4-year prayer. It changed her life and gave her a new outlook on life in an extremely short amount of time that she never expected. And so if you would like to learn more about Karen's story, you can find that on my website or on YouTube or on the podcast. But she really has an incredible story. And that's why I love to share it, to show you what is possible. Okay. So as season 1 is rawness, season 2 is isolation, season 3 is self-discovery. Now, self-discovery is where we really start to lean into figuring out who we want to be now. So, one of the things that I wish someone would have told me early on in widowhood, which is going to feel harsh. So, I need you to brace yourself. Are you ready for the harsh truth? I'm going to give you a truth bomb. No sugarcoating. I'm going to give you the harsh truth about widowhood. Are you ready for it? Put it in the chat. If you're ready, brace yourself. Okay. Until I heard this on a podcast, this analogy, I hadn't really understood or I wasn't able to put into words what I feel. Okay, I'm seeing some yeses. Okay. Your life, the life that you had with your person is over. It is in ash. And the good news, and that feels really harsh, right? Because especially in the beginning stages of grief, we want to go back to the past. We want to go back to who we were. We want to go back to the relationship we had. We want to bring our person back. But the reality is, who we were and the life that we have are over. Now, the good news, because I'm not going to leave you there, the good news is that you get to decide to build a new life. And that new life doesn't have to be subpar, doesn't have to be horrible. In the beginning, you don't really see how it would be possible because you're thinking, well, it doesn't matter how good my life is, my person still isn't here. So I don't know if I believe you, Emily, which is fine. I'll believe it for you for now. But you get to decide if you want to build a life that's worth living again. Now you can decide to sit in your grief, and some people do tell me that. They're like, "Nope, I've been grieving for 7 years. I'm not stepping forward. I am staying here. I'm gonna grieve for forever, and my life is never gonna get better, and it's gonna be awful for forever." Okay? You get to decide that. That is your right. That is your choice. You get to decide that. Yes, you do. And I encourage you to decide a different path, to decide now that you are going to rebuild something beautiful and vibrant and full up out of the ash. And this is the part that no one told me. Like, how do I do that? I had processed a lot of my grief. I had gone to counseling. I was feeling better with my grief, but I was like, what am I supposed to do now? And so these are the things that we start to focus on in this season of self discovery because we don't know who we are now or who we want to be. And we're trying to figure that out. Maybe we don't know what we like or what we want to do or what we want life to look like or where we're going to live or, who's going to be in our life. Like we can't see any of that. We're having to explore and to figure it out. And so a lot of the mistakes I see people make in this season, Margaret's like, yes, exactly. Yes. So a lot of the mistakes that I see people make in this season of grief is they feel guilty. Well, how can I laugh? How can I sit here and laugh when my person died? How can I try to have a good life? I should be sad. I'm supposed to be doing grief this way. Am I doing grief right? Am I doing it wrong? So I see a lot of people give up in this season and get stuck. I see a lot of belief that they're going backwards. Like, have you ever thought this where you're like, I thought I was doing better. I thought I was doing better. Like I hadn't cried in a long time. And then I had a really bad day or I had a really bad moment or I felt like I just got dropped back to my knees. We hold back, we shrink down because we have fear and doubts. Maybe it's boundaries and people pleasing. Maybe it's judgment we have against ourselves for how grief is supposed to look and feel, which, by the way, there's no rule book. And so when I help widows and widowers through grief, these are the things that we focus on in self-discovery. And I want to give a disclaimer, like most people get stuck in grief between seasons 2 and 3. And they kind of like keep doing this little vicious cycle because they try new things, they feel guilty or they feel overwhelmed or it was hard and awkward and weird. And so they go right back to not trying new things again. Yeah, I feel like it takes me back to day 1 again. Yeah. Well, that makes you normal. It makes you normal you would feel that way. So the good news is I can help you. I can help you with that. Okay? So here are the things that we focus on. We try new things. We make decisions where the stakes and the risks are low, and we learn how to take the decision. Like when it feels like the decision is up here, like, oh, I can't make the wrong decision, or I'm going to go bankrupt and be homeless, and I'm going to mess up my life and my kid's life, and it's all going to be awful. We take that feeling of anxiety, we learn to bring it down here so the stakes are lower. We learn how to grow our capacity for both and, which is when we think that either we love the life that we had, we miss our person, we're sad that they're not here, or we love the life that we have now. We think it has to be one or the other, right? We have the thought, if I laugh for 5 minutes, that means I don't miss my person anymore. Like it even gets down to something that simple. What I teach you to do is to grow your capacity to hold both, to hold big emotions that feel opposite but are both true, which can be I love the life that I had, I love my person, and I miss them, and I can still experience joy. I can still experience curiosity. I can still feel alive in my skin again. I don't have to be a hollow shell of myself in order to be a good widow. Okay. We get you on in a community of others who are on the same journey. We work on rebuilding your social circle so you can take these things and you can start to implement these today, tomorrow, right away. In Brave Widow, what I help people do, we walk through two systems. So, one is called the connection protocol, where you learn how to meet people and make friends. The second one is how to find purpose and meaning. So, for a lot of widows, hey, Margaret, no problem. I'll see you next time. We also learn how to find purpose and meaning again. So, for a lot of us, we lose our sense of purpose. Life has no meaning anymore. And especially if you don't have children or you find yourself as an empty nester or you're transitioning to empty nesting, it can feel like a double whammy because now not only do you not have your person, but your kids don't need you the same way that they did. Or maybe you don't have kids. And so you're kind of missing. It feels like you're missing something there. So we walk through both of those things. I can't these are things we work on over a course of several weeks, but what I can tell you in the limited time we have together today, if you were just going to focus on one thing in this season is to try something new. Try something new. And yes, it's going to be hard and scary and awkward and weird and you're going to feel uncomfortable. And it's called Brave Widow for a reason because we feel the fear, we feel the awkwardness, we feel the difficulty, and we choose to do it anyway. It's not Fearless Widow. It's called Brave Widow. Okay. All right. So, if nothing else, we want to try something new. But here's the deeper list of things that if you will work on these things, this will help you through the season of grief, be able to move forward to the next one. Now, the fourth season of grief that I teach is called empowerment. So we had rawness, isolation, self-discovery, now empowerment. And in self-discovery, we actually get to have a little fun. There is a little bit of fun in there, but it's also hard because you're doing new things for the first time. You're trying to figure out what it is you want in your life, who you're going to be. You're not really sure. You can't really see the future. And so that's a big season of exploration and discovery. So then we move into a season of empowerment. And the reason I share this isn't to make anyone feel bad that you're not here. It's to give you hope that there is a very beautiful season that you can experience in your future. So in empowerment, you are clear on who you are, who you want to be, what you want more of in your life, what you want your life to look like, and you have dreams and goals again. When my person died, when Nathan died, my dreams died with him. My goals died with him, or so it felt. But I do have dreams and goals again, and my clients, they have dreams and goals again, and you can too. Okay. So, empowerment, some of the mistakes that I see people make is a lot of people pleasing, a lot of opportunity with boundaries. I see people being a victim of circumstances like, oh, I could never do this, or I couldn't do that, or here's all the reasons why I can't. And I help you get through that. Um, Honestly, I just see people settle for less. And I think one of the things that pushed me and kept me going was like, if I was going to live another however long, like say 40 or 50 years, maybe, if I was going to live, I wanted to live. I didn't want to look back on my life and go, oh, I wish I would have tried this or done that. I wonder what would have happened if I would have written that book, or if I would have been on that podcast talking about things that are very vulnerable and hard, especially for an introvert to do. I wanted to be at the end of my life and be like, wow, I gave it everything I had. I really like went for it. And maybe it worked out and maybe it didn't. I don't know. But I gave it everything I had. Like I lived a very full life. Okay. So, what we focus on in this season of empowerment is we get very clear on your future desires. We pursue meaningful goals. We learn how to grow and develop ourselves. You become a very well rounded version of you. You may be leading or mentoring other people. And inside of Brave Widow, we have something called the Move Forward method that we work through, where we learn how to create an impossible life. Like, how exciting is that? Like, the life right now that you feel like is impossible, we learn how to create it. We learn how to build it, how to bring it into reality. Okay. But again, if I were to give you one simple step, just one, it would be to decide what you want more of in your life. So maybe right now, what you want more of is you want more gentleness, more understanding, more connection. Maybe you want more adventure. You want more purpose. There could be lots of words. Put it in the chat. What's the word that comes to mind for you when you think about what do I want more of in my life right now? Put that in the chat. While you're doing that, I want to tell you about one of my clients named Sue. Sue's been on my podcast 2 or 3 times now. She has been with me since the very beginning. So she's a Brave Widow OG, Sue. And when I first met Sue, she absolutely hated being called a widow. She had no idea what she wanted for the future, and she felt very lonely and disconnected. And so Sue joined our Brave Widow community. She participated. She um, went through grief recovery method and worked through those processes with us. And I'm happy to share that now Sue is in the season of empowerment. Sue has authored a best-selling book called Marrying My Heart, and she's co-authored 2 other best-selling books. She has traveled to several places solo where she knew no one, went with no one, and made amazing connections with other people. She's involved in all kinds of communities on growth, on self development, on giving back to the community. She has her own book club, she has her own grief group, and she's currently going through certification to be a Brave Widow coach inside of Brave Widow. And she's just doing amazing things. And this is a person whose husband died on Valentine's Day. That's part of her story with Marrying My Heart, was how hearts and love have become such a symbol for her because her husband died on Valentine's Day, guys. How awful and tragic is that? How bitter could she have become with Valentine's Day, with hearts, with love, with the irony of losing the person you love on the day of love? Yeah, how heartbreaking. Yeah, she had every reason to be that way. But when you talk with Sue, she is full of joy. She radiates love and peace and care for other people. And that's why she's going to be one of the coaches that helps other people inside of Brave Widow because she has evolved and changed in such a huge way over these last few years of working together. So Sue says a lot of things in her videos, but one of the things that she said was, I used to hate being called a widow until I met Emily. And I totally understand that because I hated it too. I did not resonate with being called a widow. I hated it. It was like a black label. I wanted it away from me. But the more that I learned about what it really takes to be a widow, and the more that I was blown away with like how generous widows are, how non-judgmental, how caring, how they of all people could withdraw and only focus on themselves and tell everyone else to just deal with life. Like they listen, they care, they give back. They like, oh my gosh, they do impossible things, things that I thought were impossible. They do them. And so now it's become a label I wanted nothing to do with to a badge of honor. Not one that I would have chosen, but I'm so proud to be considered among widows as a widow. Like I know what it takes. I know what it means to become that. So, just as a recap, we have the 4 seasons of grief: rawness, isolation, self discovery, empowerment. Most widows, when they find me or when they tend to get stuck, are right here between seasons 2 and 3. And we call them seasons because we're not trying to put anyone in a box, right? Like our goal is just to help give you a roadmap for what to expect on your journey through grief. And like seasons, they're very transitional. So you might kind of go from one to the other and back and forward and back, but it helps give you an idea of where you are. And again, if you want to take the free quiz to get really clear on where you are and what you could focus on, you can go to bravewidow.com/quiz. It's totally free. Take the quiz, see where you are, see what your next steps could be, just as a recap. So, if all I could do in Brave Widow was to help you stop feeling crazy and to know exactly where you are and what to do over the next 30 days, would that be worth continuing? Even if that's all I could do to help you is to stop feeling crazy, know where you are and exactly what to do over the next 30 days, would that be worth learning about Brave Widow and the Academy and participating in that? Yes. Yes. Yes, for sure. Yes. Okay. Amazing. So here is broken out by season. Inside of the Brave Widow Academy, I'm going to share a little bit about this with you guys. If you want to learn more, hang out. Um, inside of Brave Widow Academy is a 6-month program. And in that program, this is our curriculum. So these are the things that we focus on in each of these seasons of grief. And you learn the tools and the roadmap to help you move through all seasons of grief. So to be able to go from deep grief to having a life that you enjoy again, that you actually love again, you learn the tools and the process for being able to bring that to reality. So I would love to invite you to join the Academy. Our next group is going to start on April the 2nd, and I have heard everyone loud and clear. Everyone has been asking me for an evening time, for an evening option. And I will be honest, evenings are really hard for me because I have 3 teenagers still at home. We have 5 kids altogether between the 2 of us. 3 are still at home. I'm very involved in our community. I lead a Bible study group. I'm part of a real estate investor group. And I have kiddos and a very, very full life. So evenings are really difficult for me. So here's what I've done. I have 5 of my clients who are going through a certification program right now that I developed to become certified coaches inside of Brave Widow. So Sue, I shared her story a little bit earlier. She is going to lead this group of the Academy, and I'm going to co-facilitate with her. So she's going to lead most of the sessions. I'm going to attend some of the sessions, but also I'm going to be involved with each person individually. Okay. So we meet every week. The group is going to meet on Thursdays. I put the time zones here because math, this isn't called Brave Widow math, people. I'm not great at math. But I'm in Central time zone. So it'll be 5 to 7 Central on Thursday evenings. If you're Eastern, it's 6 to 8 p.m. If you're on Mountain Time, it's 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific is 3 to 5 p.m. On Thursdays every week, starting on April 2nd, and we meet for 2 hours. Okay. So typically, the first hour, we do our progress forms. We update our progress trackers in class. We learn about a specific topic from our curriculum. And then we spend the next hour having open coaching, open sharing, and just really good small group time. These groups are pretty small. So some of our groups have 8 people in them. Some of them have up to 14, 15 people in them. So this isn't like hundreds of people. You're not going to get lost in a sea of people. And every week in class, we update individual progress tracking forms where you get to reflect on what has gone well that week, what you're struggling with. And we have different categories of things that you rate, like confidence, routine, purpose. You rate those things every week. That's also how we track improvement over time or changes over time. And this is going to be the first group where I am going to send you video feedback every week after you update your progress tracker. So during the week, I'm going to look at your form that you completed. I'm going to give you direct feedback. If you have a question or you need help, I'm going to get you unstuck. I'm going to give you some suggestions or some encouragement, whatever it is that you're needing in that moment, so that you never feel lost, you never feel stuck, you never are sitting there spiraling out, wondering what to do or how to handle something or how to respond to something. Like, you are always getting feedback, you're always getting support and help. Okay. You also have access to a messaging group. So we have a Telegram group. You can go in there and message the community 24/7. Okay. We have our structured curriculum. And so if you want to learn more about that, you can go to bravewidow.com/academy and learn about the academy. Now, you might be wondering, like, I don't know, the 6-month program, is it going to work for me? Is it not? So as part of our progress tracking every week, we rate, like I told you, we rate confidence, we rate some different areas. And so we want to be able to make something tangible that feels intangible. Like, how can you say if your confidence improved or not? If your sense of purpose improved or not? Well, we do that through progress tracking forms. Okay. So here's the thing. Let's say you are afraid maybe this isn't going to work for you, couldn't help you, you're not really sure. Okay. Here's my guarantee, the Brave Widow promise, the guarantee from me to you. If you show up to our calls, if you implement what we teach, you update your progress tracker, right? You will make progress. You will be stepping forward through this program, or I will work with you personally for free until you do. Okay. That's my promise to you. Now, if I was your one-on-one coach, that's one of our more like premium expensive options, but I am willing to make sure that I personally work with you for free if you feel like the 6-month program did not help you step or move forward. Okay? That's the guarantee. That's taking the risk out of the decision. Also, as a life coach, we help people make decisions and take action, which can be really difficult for widows to do when you've lost your confidence, you've lost your thought partner, you feel like you've lost your safety net, and it's hard to make decisions, especially if it's something financial. So, I'm including some bonuses for early enrollment only for people who raise their hand, they join, they want to enroll early, because we start on April the 2nd, right? So we still have a few weeks before we start. So if you join early, if you join before the end of February, I'm going to include a personal call with me, 90 minutes one-on-one. We're going to map out, we're going to do a life planning call where I'm going to map out for you your exact next steps. This isn't a cookie cutter thing. This isn't something where everybody gets the same steps. This is me doing a deep dive VIP session with you to learn your story, exactly where you are in the grief journey, and to give you some customized personal next steps specific to you, to your situation, so that you know exactly what to focus on next and you know exactly what to focus on in the academy. Okay. I'm also, as a thank you, going to give you your choice of a Brave Widow tumbler or a Brave Widow shirt if you want a little merch. Um, Now, I do have people in a variety of countries. So we have people in the US and Canada I can ship to easily. I have recently had someone join from Slovenia, so I have not tried to ship there yet. So if you're outside of the US or Canada, be patient with me. We may have to figure out how to get it to you. But I do want to ship you something physical as a reminder that you're not alone on this journey. And then I have a couple other bonuses you will also get if you join in February that are going to end in March. So at the end of February, these top two bonuses go away. March 15th, these second bonuses go away. So as soon as you join Brave Widow Academy, you get an early access pass to everything in the curriculum. So right away, you can start going through the curriculum if you want. You can start filling out the worksheets. You can start watching some of our past live coaching calls. You can listen on the go to the private podcast of our past classes and our past coaching calls. You can get like an early start and you also get early access to the group. And then at the end, you're also going to get an extra month of alumni support calls. So after the 6 months of our time together, after going through the program, I'm giving you a bonus 7th month of access to calls and coaching to help you as you're implementing and going back into your normal life. So if you're interested, go to bravewidow.com/academy. The best bonuses are awarded for signing up before the end of February. And if you're not sure, you're like, I don't know, is this for me? I think maybe I want to, but I just really need to talk to you to like take the leap of faith. You can go to bravewidow.com/call, CALL, and I do a no pressure consult call. So I have several questions that I'll ask you just to understand where you are specifically in your journey. And I help you map out the next steps. So, just like I showed you on a presentation today, some suggested next steps, these are going to be next steps specific to you, specific to your situation, based on what we learn about in that call. And then I don't pressure you to make a decision. I don't pressure you to give me your credit card over the phone. I send you all the notes that I take during our calls so that you have that, and that if you just want to take that and implement it on your own, you can go down that path. My goal is to help you just get clarity and to help you feel good about whatever decision it is that ultimately you make. So to set up the call, you just go to bravewidow.com/call. It's free. There's no pressure. It can help you get some clarity. So this is just showing you how to set up your call. Who is this program for? It's for people who feel stuck, for people who are wondering, like, what's next? Maybe someone, if you feel isolated, lost, or overwhelmed. If you want to stop surviving and you want to start actually living again. If you like structure, you like guidance, you like having a plan. I desperately wanted that. I desperately wanted a plan. I wanted someone to give me the roadmap. So I created it. I went out and created it because that's what I wanted. Okay. If you are someone who likes a faith based approach, we are faith based, and faith based meaning Bible based. Okay. It doesn't mean that I just tell you to pray away your grief. I don't. It doesn't mean that sometimes people feel weird about God. They are starting to doubt, or they feel like they're not sure they can trust him. I hope you work through all of that in a very real and honest way. And then sometimes there are people who are not faith-based at all, and they are welcome to join. So you do not have to be faith-based. Just know we are faith-based, meaning that I pray at the beginning of a session. And if people bring up God and we talk about that, we do. Um, but everyone is welcome. Joe says, I always say me and God are beefing right now. He knows my heart. Yeah, I can definitely help you even with that and having honest conversations with him and wrestling with him about all the really hard questions that maybe don't even have good answers. This is for people who are ready to rebuild their life that they can love again. So you can go to, I know we're right at time. You can go to bravewidow.com. You can see the testimonials. You can watch videos. So like Wayne has a video on there that's really amazing. When I met Wayne, he was 71. He had been widowed just under a year. He was literally going to counseling or a grief group every single weekday, every day. And he felt, in his words, you can watch his video, every day he just felt like he was getting worse and worse. And in his words, more and more depressed. Like he felt like it wasn't helping him. He just wanted to give up. And his friend, Allison, who also was on the podcast recently, she referred him to a grief recovery class that I was doing. He went to the class for a couple of sessions and he's like, hey, do you do anything more than just this grief recovery stuff? Do you like actually help people one-on-one? And so I said, yes, Wayne was my first widower client. We do have other widowers in the group. But he was my first one and we started working together and he told me that he had more hope in the first call that we had together than he had had since his wife had died, which I feel like is really powerful. And so if you feel that way, that you're ready to give up, you don't need counseling, you're tired of the grief groups, whatever it is, that there is still hope for you through what we do in coaching. And then there are a lot of testimonials and screenshots and things I've put on the website just so can feel confident that what we do actually does work and does actually help people. So, I would love to see you in the academy. If you have any questions, I know we're right at time, but I'm willing to go over a little bit. If you all have any questions, go ahead and put that in the chat. But to learn more, go to bravewidow.com/academy and you can see what all is in the program, who all is there. And if you want help deciding, you can set up a call and we'll chat about it. I had a call with someone recently and she was like, wow, it's actually you. I thought it was going to be like a salesperson or something. And she's like, you're just like how you are on your videos and on your podcasts. And I thought that was like the best compliment ever because I'm like, yeah, this is me. This is how I am. This is just me. So some people are going to resonate with that. Some people won't. But if it resonates with you, I would love to be able to support and guide you over these next 6 months. 6 months after this next group starts, it will be October. It'll be October. We'll be going into a big holiday season. And so I would love for you to feel that you have taken some steps forward, that you are well equipped. And with a gentler and easy way to do that rather than maybe what you've experienced in the past or what you've been dreading. And I would love to be the person who is able to help you do that. For the academy, we do offer if you decide to pay in full, it's $3,000 one-time payment. If you want a payment plan, we have a couple of different options, starting at $300 a month. So those are some options for you as you look at just some different payment plans there. So, all right, it was great getting to see you guys. It was great hanging out with you in the chat. Thank you for being here with me. I would love to see you in the academy. Go to bravewidow.com and get started today. Bye.